All right. Hello, everyone. We're here tonight with Dave McCall, and Dave is running for Tooele City Council. And so we're just going to have Dave kind of take it away, lay out a little bit about himself, where he's from.
Have you seen the show before, Dave?
No.
No?
Let's bring this right in close to you, just belly right up to it, and kind of have him tell us about himself, where he's from, and kind of what's motivating him to run for council. All right, Dave, take it away.
Well, I've
There we
there
go.
we go. I've lived here in Tooele since 1993,
Uh-huh.
and I was sent here to train reserves with Charlie Company 4th LAR that was stationed at Tooele Army Depot at the time, and fell in love with the place. I retired in 2000, worked here. I got a job at Freightliner, Select Trucks. I worked there, and then at Carlisle Centec, 100 panels, out in Dugway, and now I'm in Tooele at the depot working. 62, soon to be 63. 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, wife. It's been a really good nearly 30 years here in Tooele.
Nice. So you just fell in love with the place. Where'd you come from?
North Carolina. I was born and raised
Okay.
in North Carolina, and small town called Dunn, and not far from Fort Bragg. So when I decided to join the Marines instead of the Army, my mom actually asked me, like, why aren't you doing like your cousins and them and going in the Army? And I'm like, well, I'm a little different. And I did have one relative that was in the Marine Corps, so I was fond of the uniforms, and quite frankly, it just happened. I hadn't planned on joining, but I did. It's
Yeah.
good times.
So where'd you end up when you were in the Marines?
I've been North Carolina, Japan, Okinawa. Been in Europe a couple of times, and in Quantico, Newport News, Norfolk. It's
Okay.
been
Can you speak any Japanese?
Hubba hubba. That's about all I remember.
Me, just konnichiwa.
Yeah.
So you ended up on the East Coast with the Marines anyway, so still
yeah.
close to home.
Was. And
Yeah.
I served 2 years on the Kennedy, the USS JFK. And I was leaving there. I had orders to Philadelphia, Naval Shipyard. And they changed them and said, you're going to Tooele, Utah. And like, where? And he says, Tooele, Utah. I couldn't even pronounce the name, but that's okay. And the rest is pretty much history.
I don't think anyone can pronounce the name initially unless someone is there to hold their hand while they enunciate it.
It used to be spelled. It used to be spelled more phonetically correct in
It was.
in the early, but somewhere around mid 1900s they said. And it might have had something to do with the Army coming out here. Funny story about that. My brother, he when he was in Iraq, he had a guy in his unit come up to him, where you from? And well, I'm from Utah. He said, man, I was stationed at this real turd hole in Utah. It was the worst place ever. He said, really? Where was you at? And he says, a place called Dugway. And that's what my brother had to say. Yeah, I grew up just over the mountain from there, But yeah. All right. So what's motivating you to run? What's your thirst?
Mine is I have a burning desire to serve. I've served before, and I'm not the fire's still there, and Tooele is growing so rapidly, and so many different things are changing, and I just feel I have something to give to help that, and to try to keep us grounded per se. It's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of ideas. And a lot of them, most of them are pretty much great. It's just that if we don't take our time and move, we need to move. We should have moved years ago, but we really need to get moving now. And but we can't rush. And about everything that everyone wants to happen or wants to see happen in Tooele is going to cost money. And when that plays a big factor into making anything happen, you need to make sure you're moving at a pace to where you can see what's coming. And I honestly feel we need to take the blinders off. Look down the road, look on the side of the road as if you were looking for a deer, and never forget where you came from. And there's places in Tooele like Broadway. At one time we had a facade grant that helped the businesses on Main Street. It was basically a matching grant to help them beautify the building, the facade.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, was that like if you put forth X, we put forth Y, and
Right.
just kind of?
And if I'm not mistaken, it was either 10 or 12,000 or something like that was the max that you could get. But it was basically matching.
Mhm.
And a couple of businesses on Main Street utilized that, and they made their buildings look nice. A lot of the others didn't. I don't know if it was because they just didn't have the funds, but I know some of them didn't because they didn't own the building and the landlord didn't want to partake. But
Yeah.
now a lot of that has changed, and a lot of the people own the businesses. So I think we need to bring that back on Broadway. I think it could be utilized on Broadway, which at one time was Main Street years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we should forget about Broadway and some of the other streets in town. But those are the two bigger streets with older buildings.
Yeah,
And
we got a little
that-
bit on Vine as well. But
Right. And the only reason I'm saying that is because you don't want to lose where you came from. And I think we should preserve those areas just so that we don't forget where we came from. Because the way the community is growing, it's going to get big, and it's basically no stopping. And I know a lot of people don't want the growth to happen, but it's going to happen. I mean, you look at the fact if you just put a bubble over Tooele and say no one gets in or out, within a year you got more people because you're not going to stop people from appropriating. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's gonna happen.
and the developers sue you, and then you have to give them stuff.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you can't stop it. You just have to manage it. And I think all the individuals that are running, I think, have a really good idea of how they feel that it should happen,
Mm-hmm.
and me included. So I don't want to take away anything from any of them because all the ideas are good. But I just feel that we just need to take our time, get the plan. We have a master plan. They already have it. But I feel that if we just say, okay, well, where we need to be, we know where we need to be 20 years from now. Right now, we need to start focusing on 5 years, no matter what you do. I know it's been mentioned about a water service district. I was totally down for a water service district years ago. It takes time to get that into place. It takes time to get as you would call it, the buy-in. And once you get the buy-in, then there's a lot of other things that has to happen before it can come to reality. It's a lot of piping, a lot of planning, a lot of getting permission to go across people's property.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of things that have to come together.
Now, is this where they would kind of combine all the cities into kind of a municipality, or what? Explain the water service district.
What it is not that you would give your water, because we basically function off of wells.
Mm-hmm.
We would keep our wells.
Come in nice and close to them.
We would keep our wells, and we would keep everything that is Tooele would keep Tooele. Grantsville would keep Grantsville. Erda, Stansbury, Lake Point, all of them would keep theirs, as well as Stockton. What the beauty of a water service district is, and I can't say beauty, but the function of a water service district, its whole purpose is if for some reason you're running dry, you can call and it's a set fee, and you say, well, the service district, we need XYZ amount of water. They open the valve, you got water.
So it's a way to, it's just an easier way to purchase water from
Correct.
other municipalities
Correct.
close by. Okay.
And so it keeps you all whole.
How close would the other municipalities be okay with it? Are they on board?
If that's the thing, if we can get them all, if all the municipalities would come together and say, okay, let's do this. And again, that is a lot of money.
Mhm.
And that is a lot of time. So it's not something that can happen overnight. You're looking, I would say the earliest you could get that, even if you got all the buy-in tomorrow with all the municipalities, you're probably looking at 3, 4, maybe 5 years down the road
Mm.
before you get it all done. Hence, I was saying we should have started sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, would the other municipalities be looking at Tooele as kind of the negative user of the water if we did conjoin and build such a structure?
What exactly do you mean negative user? Because the biggest.
We'd be using their water. Wouldn't they kind of have like a negative feeling about that, maybe?
Well, actually, we will be using our own water, just like they will be using their own water. But
until we're not.
Well, if we run dry and they run dry, then we really got a problem.
Right.
But what it is if someone is lacking some, then they would go to the service district, which it wouldn't be Tooele City. It would be the actual service district. And their job would be to maintain and manage that and try to acquire more water so that when any of us need it, we always have water. Because that would be on its own.
Right.
It wouldn't be ran by Tooele or Grantsville. It'd be
its own entity.
Right. It would be its own entity. And it would be designed to go out and try to obtain more water for the city.
Why do you think that it already hasn't been initiated yet in the city council?
Well, and again, it's not just Tooele. You have to get buy-in from the other municipalities for them to say, okay, let's do this. And everyone has to put forth money to make this happen. And we would need to go and try to get grants from the state, grants from the federal government to help you do it. Hence, again,
a lot of administrative hours would need to be put into the paperwork. Exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. You're talking years down the road.
Right.
It's not something that's going to happen overnight. But excuse me, the thing of it is something that needs to be discussed more, and it's probably something that should come into play eventually. And to say, and eventually was a wrong word, but to say we want to start talking about this next year. No, it's just like the saying about a tree. When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today.
Yeah.
Same thing go into play with this. You can't keep pushing it down the road. It needs to start now. And you got probably 8 months to a year worth of paperwork like you was talking about before any shovel gets turned.
Gotcha. Now you're the only candidate with prior experience being on city council, correct?
No, Melody and Mazione. She's been
Marisa was yeah, she was elected on that opening last year.
Right. She was appointed
and Gochis she's going on this upcoming year will be her third year, correct? Fourth year.
Oh, I'm sorry, actually it'd be a fifth. She's on the
fifth. Yeah, second term. Yeah.
And Matt is on the planning commission, so he's got experience in the city.
Yeah, we've got a really strong showing for city council. A really strong, all of you across the board have had experience serving either with the council, on the council, or on the planning committee, or being involved in the community. So really makes me as a resident feel pretty secure no matter what, you know.
We try, and it is, as I was saying earlier, it's just so many moving parts right now. And we've been in meetings and meet the candidates in this, and a lot of times they have designated questions and they talk about this and they talk about that. The bottom line is all of it comes together, every bit of it. And unfortunately, in the times that we live in today, everything that you do revolves around money. It all does. And when you say, well, I'm going to push to do this or I'm going to push to do that, yeah, that's great. Do we need it? Yes, we do need it. But all of that comes with a price.
Yes, it does.
And if you're not careful, we can end up neglecting this to take care of that. And the downside of it is when you neglect this to take care of that, when it comes back to fix this, it's way worse than it should be, and it's going to cost you more money to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of sort of in that situation right now.
We're in a kind of a crossroads growth wise where we step up to the next level.
Correct. And the city's done great as far as trying to make sure that we have water to deal with the current growth that we have. But we know from there's an organization on the other side of the mountain called Wasatch Front Regional Council, and their sole purpose is studying and analyzing different things. And over a year ago, closer to 2 now, they've already predicted Tooele city proper, per se, in the year 2040, which every time I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, that's only 18 years from now. They are predicting roughly 80,000 people in Tooele City.
In the city, what's the current population?
Roughly 38 or 39.
Okay, I wasn't too far off on my guess.
No, you weren't.
Dave, this organization, do they study the water as well?
They're not water per se, water people.
More population.
They basically study growth, and they've been kind of accurate on the Wasatch Front side, and they're pretty accurate on our side, because at that time they were saying the county would have roughly about 165,000 people in it.
Talk a little closer to me.
Oh, in the county. And again, that was well over a year ago, and I'm sure that number has changed. Utah as a whole, well, let's just face it. When I arrived in '93, the population in Utah was less than 1 million, if I'm not mistaken, and now we are quite a few million.
We're 6 million, 6 to 7.
So you brought him
Somewhere in there.
I must have left the door open when I slipped in. I don't know.
We're sending you to Wyoming next.
Well, they're going too.
So Dave, do you think that we're going to escape another tax hike in the next few years, or is it going to double again, you think?
When it comes to
the
that,
city.
Mm-hmm. I'm not certain on exactly how all that is going to play out. But one of the things that I will say, one of the ways when you're analyzing and planning for growth, you know it's coming, you know you have to improve on this, you got to improve that, you need to make sure that you have your services that are definitely needed, like law enforcement, the fire department. You need to have them. You need to make sure that your people that work for the city to keep the water plant, the reclamation facility running, all that is going to start costing you. So when you look at the math and you check out the budget, yeah, you're going to look to see where you can cut. We can cut this, we can cut that. But then if you cut it too much, you're doing just what we was talking about a minute ago. You take it from Peter to pay Paul, and eventually it's going to come back and bite you. So
didn't Tooele City kind of do that for a while, which is why we had that
massive
doubling of taxes?
Yeah. Well, the objective of that one was the administration didn't feel that we wanted to lay anybody off, and by doing that, you had to cut back. It was a double-edged sword, and again, eventually it catches up with you. But in order to try to counter that, in my mind, every year, you have the tax rate come out. And a lot of times, most of the times, if you just hold the tax rate and not adjust it so that there's no tax increase, but usually if you just hold the tax rate, that will give you maybe a 2% increase. And most of the citizens, I feel, would be okay with a 2% instead of 8 or 9 or 10. And if you do that and just say, well, we're just going to hold the tax rate for this year and see where it gets us and analyze it. Well, that allowed us to do this and this and this. Well, maybe we need to hold it again another year. So maybe 2 years in a row, you might need to hold the tax rate. and just see where that takes you. Because if you don't, and then you find out that you're totally in the hole, now you got to come back to the citizens and say, well, I'm sorry, but we need to do a 6 or 7% tax increase. You know what I mean? And no one likes that. And let's face it, I don't like to pay taxes, but I'm paying them right along with you. You know what I'm saying? And the elected officials, that's pretty much what you put them there for, you to try to keep you moving forward and keeping the water flowing, clean water flowing, and knowing when you flush, it's going someplace, not, you know, back in your house. It's a hard job sometimes, thinking about what's going to happen to the citizens that put you there to do what you do. And none of the decisions by any of the councilmen, the current ones and the former ones, was ever done to hurt anybody. It was done. Yeah. It was done because that's what collectively they thought was the best thing to do. Yeah. At that particular time.
Well, and it's trade-offs. Every decision's got a trade-off with it. It's not like they're going to come up and say, you know, do you eat the yogurt or do you throw the yogurt away? The decisions are usually complicated.
And I hear that we're going to have a potential for a vote on a fire department in Tooele City. Is that true? Have you heard any rumors on that?
I don't know if I know that the current administration is working towards and they've set some funds aside for the fire department. But I haven't heard that we were going to raise taxes to fund for that fire department, kind of like we did for the police department. But the thing with that is we do need another fire department, another fire station. And I had this conversation with someone not too terribly long ago, and I asked them, I said, well, when you get your insurance paperwork in the mail, you get it twice a year. Your insurance company send you and say, hey, your house is valued at blah, blah, blah. When you get that, if you look at the bottom, at least mine was towards the bottom of the first or second page, and it gave you a rating at the bottom, and that rating was a fire rating. It pertains to the Tooele City Fire Department. And it tells you basically all of this is based on that. The city pay taxes a fee for their insurance, and that fee is based on the fire rating. As big as we are with the 2 stations that we have, and we're going north, we really need a fire station in that area, because what they do, they see how long it takes a fire truck to get from there to there.
Maybe out by Bargain Buggies or Home Depot. Is that where you're talking?
We got the land on 1000 North. Oh, right next to the helicopter pad.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's there. It's already
been designated. And I honestly feel that we can get another station there at a decent cost. But nevertheless, it's still going to cost. And then we still have to keep in mind that the city is still growing. And as we get bigger, the need for more is going to more than likely rear its head.
I've got some questions with the fire department and 2 stations, and I've often wondered this. And, well, you're the one that's here when it comes to the tip of my tongue. So we got volunteer firefighters, correct? Right now we have 2 stations. We have an outpost in Pine Canyon. Is that correct?
No, that would be North.
Or is that North Tooele? Okay. So we've got the one on Main Street. When you
7th.
And the one on the one on 7th. When you have 2 fire stations and an alert goes out, are the volunteers kind of assigned to one station? That's where they will go and gear up and grab equipment and leave from there? Or is there a complicated dispatching pattern that says, hey, you know, right now we've only got the first 4 guys, which are you 4 or whatever, need to go to the one on 7th because that's the closest one? Or how does that work?
The the guys that we have, they are dedicated individuals. All of them are, and 99.9% of them. If you stop them in the street right now, their gear is with them. They keep their gear with them.
Well, I mean, mostly what I'm wondering about is the truck, the big equipment. Like, do we have a smart dispatch system which tells them which station to go to get in the trucks? Or the first ones, like if there's a fire up on 7th, would it tell them go to 7th? The first ones go to 7th, and the next ones go to Main Street and get a backup truck or whatever. Or
it probably, well, I can't say it probably, but I'm almost certain it works kind of like the way you just said. Yeah. Whomever gets there first, because most of them are able to drive, and the first ones that get there are the ones that take the truck, and they go to the remaining of them. They have their pager, not a pager, but they have their radio, and they know where the fire is, so they go directly to the fire.
I was just kind of wondering, are they assigned to the different houses? Like we have
They could be.
Kind of two squads, and I don't know. The city council may not know that. That might be.
I know that when they have their meetings, they meet at the main house, and they do train at the one on 7th Street. But when they have their meetings in fact, they're having a meeting tonight. When they have their meetings, I think most of them are there, and then they go to Station 2 to train and make sure that the truck trucks are in good working order, and they have to drive them periodically.
Feed the Dalmatian, things firefighters do.
Well, yeah, and again, we started this conversation off talking about money, and then you mentioned that we do have a volunteer fire department. Thank God, but just their vehicles are expensive.
Oh yeah,
I can imagine.
Oh yeah, but used ones.
They are.
It's more common for small towns to buy used ones, and they are still off the charts.
Yeah, and but you have to give them what they need to do, which is protect us. And again, it every single thing, unfortunately, does revolve around money. And that is one of the biggest headaches that an elected official and appointed officials have, is trying to make sure that the budget is balanced and we're taking care of everything that needs to be taken care of.
And anticipating
what's coming down the road.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of moving parts. I noticed you can't help but notice, because your road was one of them that just got redone, and I'm sure you're probably glad that it did get redone.
Lovely. But now our road was never too terrible.
Yeah, it's still a road,
but it started to get some cracks in it, and those cracks let water in, and especially salt. Salt expands in water, starts popping up pavement. I'm glad they were on top of that. They sealed it off before that became an issue.
And again, not everyone, but a lot of citizens are upset about the roads in their neighborhood. And again, we can't get them all every single year, but they do their best to hit as many as they possibly can with the funding that we have. I've been hit up about the road between Vine Street and 400 by the golf course, Drewby. We did some work there about a year ago on the side with the piping.
You're talking about the little bump one that you go down where you take your windshield's life in your own hands.
From by the golf course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I get it, yeah.
And, well, why didn't you widen the road and fix it then? Well, at that time, and this was about 2 years, about a year and a half ago or two, at that time, from Vine Street to Drewby to 400, it was over $1 million to do that. It's not like the city can just say, okay, let's just spend $1 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a hit.
That is a big hit. And so all of that has to be planned. And you have to plan for it. You just can't just
plan
do it.
And that's one that needs to be written out and kind of have its own budget ticker item on $1,000,000. Yeah.
And citizens have to do the right thing and not grow a garden on the side of the road between the crack of your sidewalk and the road and let that stuff deteriorate too. I see that happening all over the place. And then people complain about the road. Well, you know, we have our own obligations as well to maintain our areas. And, you know, if you're going to cry about the road, at least pull the weeds in between the cracks between your sidewalk and the road, because that definitely pulls up pavement.
Yeah, it does. I know I
Come in on the mic just a little.
Sorry. I was talking, actually it was a question yesterday, I think it was, in regards to now I'm losing my train of thought.
Yeah, it happens. That's what happens when you turn on all the stuff.
Yeah, I know. And it's just now I'm going, it'll come back to me eventually.
Yeah. Well, while you wait on that, I've got a question. Someone asked me today, a Stansbury Park resident, who feels like, I think they feel like they're absorbed into a lot of the fees that Tooele has, but they're wondering why they don't get to vote for the Tooele city mayor. And I don't know the particulars about that, and they don't either. So, you know, do you know why that is?
I honestly feel they have a
They have trustees,
right, and but Stansbury technically is still in the county,
so they
vote for the county commissioners.
okay.
You know, the
That's-
county councils now. I think
That's kind of what they thought, because they felt that they were getting taxed for Tooele, but I think they're more getting taxed for the county.
the county.
Okay.
Yeah, if
I
you're in
just
city
wanted to make
limits,
sure.
you're going to get to vote for the mayor.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're not in city limits,
But
you're not
she
going to get
said-
to vote for the mayor.
It seems like we get hit with all the Tooele city stuff, and I was like, well, I don't know. I haven't seen what their taxes look like.
No, they are part of the county, and they're getting hit with the county taxes.
Okay. All right. Well, I either she's watching this, or I'll just pass it on to her in person when I talk to her next time. I just wanted to verify, because I've never seen what Stansbury Park actually is involved in.
All those taxes are so confusing too. When you get them, you're like looking at them, you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand all these different fees or what they're for, and it's not like we get a class on that. So, yeah, I'm sure your friend. I'm almost 100% positive that you can't get taxed for city stuff if you're not a city citizen.
No.
I wouldn't think so, but I didn't know. I didn't know what Stansbury fell under, and maybe when they see Tooele County stuff, it might just look like Tooele to them, so maybe that throws them off, you know, and which is understandable.
I wouldn't doubt that. If you notice sometimes when there's something on the news, and the news reporters will be standing in front of City Hall and they're talking about the county.
Oh yeah,
it happens all the time. So
All the
Tooele
time.
City, Tooele County, we get confused all the time.
I think,
And they're right next door to each other.
And they're right down the street now.
well, yeah. I mean, they did put a small building between them, you know, and a little bit of a street. But no, I think, yeah, I think that is a very common thing, you know, and yeah, I think that's it. So, we've knocked out. Probably going to need to build a. Oh, hold on. Got a question rolled in. How do you feel the relationship between Tooele and Grantsville city is right now? Between the Tooele city and Grantsville city.
I honestly think it's pretty good. For the most part, we've always had a decent relationship. I know there were times where there were discussions about certain things, and it was a lawsuit at one time. And but for the most part, I think all that is behind us, and we've moved on. I don't think that there's a major problem there at this time.
I do know about might have been 20 years ago now, they were thinking about having kind of a metro response with law enforcement, probably just on the tactical side. But I think that was squashed just because if you call out Grantsville and Tooele at the same time and they form up into a tactical team, well, then if something else happens somewhere else, they're out on a limb. And I think that squashed that. But that's about all I've ever heard of them really teaming up. I haven't seen a lot of animosity between the two cities.
I don't think it is anymore. And I think that happened at that time was basically a misunderstanding and possibly egos. And
in government,
and that
I don't know how you can go out on a limb like this and say that there's egos in government. I think that is uncalled for. It's unconscionable that you would speak that way.
And I apologize if I offended you, or if I hurt your feel goods. I'm sorry.
I think you offended everyone with that one.
No, that happens from time to time.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I think it would help if everyone came to the table at all times with at least the understanding that the person across from you may oppose you, but they are doing what they think is right.
Correct. Too much of anything is not necessarily good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that meaning too many people think in the exact same way in a group. Generally, the outcome is not favorable for someone on the outside.
Very true. Now, I do know Dave is dying to ask you his what do you call it, trademark question.
Well, before I do, I had a different
Dave's
question.
got something else. All right.
Because Dave has experience on the city council previously, I'm curious to know how much of your free time would you say you have to donate to that position once you're elected? Give me like a percentage.
Being on the council, you are pretty much a councilman or a council person. I would say at least probably 2-3 hours a day on an average, and that is not necessarily a work day. That could be on the weekend, that could be on the golf course, that could be anywhere. Because once you're there, you are a representative of the city and the citizens. So when trust me, I've gotten hit up in the grocery store, God knows how many times.
How often did you get called at home, like sitting down to dinner, pick up the fork and knife, and then...
And it happens. And you expect that. And that's part of the job. And you have to be willing to do that.
Right. You got to have the patience to walk your conversations through with the citizens and listen to the input. Okay, so around 3 to 4 hours per day on
and that's not necessarily every single day,
right?
But when you average it out, because some of the conversations can be an hour or so long.
You might get a Saturday where you don't leave the store until they throw you and whoever's questioning you last out, and the person waiting in line after them. Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll segue into my question I ask everyone.
Yeah.
So on a political scale, left to right, libertarian to communist, where do you think you fall?
Probably on a political scale,
because this is a nonpartisan position. But since we are giving the power to tax to the council, it's important for people to know like where you fall politically, I think, because it helps kind of gauge where the candidate sits and in their thought processes with the purse.
And it does. And to be honest with you, I vote, and I have voted for years, my conscience. And so that puts me pretty much right in the middle, because it doesn't matter to me. I try my best not to look at party, because that's just not who I am. And that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm right down the middle.
Okay.
That's good. That's,
Well, both all of the parties have something good to bring to the table.
Yeah,
And
I
they
agree.
all have some crap to bring to the, excuse my French.
Until
to
you
come
get
to the
federal.
table. And then, but here, this, it's, I just want to do what's right for the citizens. That's all I want to do.
Well, yeah, and the good thing is, and I've been thinking on this because I think we've got all of Grantsville City Council under the belt, got 2 of the 4 of Tooele cities under the belt now. None of them are bad decisions. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. One, Tooele doesn't have a fenced off area, gated off area where it's, for lack of a better word, where it's elites and politicians live outside of the city, where they're insulated from the rabble. And I think that's a good thing because you guys live in the city, and every decision you make affects you, your children,
And your neighbors.
The in-laws, all that. It envelops that, and I think that's a good thing to have. And I don't know. I think, and that usually is the way it is in smaller cities. When you get into bigger cities and they start developing, there's this distinct area of town that's going to function and live different, But we're still small enough. We're still one town. We've got one high school. We've got, there is no driving over a bridge to get to another part of town. So, yeah.
Yeah. And we one high school so far.
Yeah. Now they are building another one.
Yeah, the other one's coming.
Yeah, we're going to have the
Home Depot High.
Yeah, Home Depot High. We're going to call them the yellow aprons or orange aprons. Now, if they build that high school and they select the colors anything other than orange, I think they've done a disservice to the community.
I think it's orange and white. The lettering on the Home Depot logo is white, right?
I agree. And they need to write the high school in the same font, kind of that
Nice.
bubbly cartoon
like
font. Where everyone else uses kind of a block letter, this needs to have that bubbly font.
This is the first time I've heard Home Depot High. I like it.
Yeah.
That's going to stick.
Dude, the orange, that'd be a loud and proud school color, orange,
Yeah, it
right?
would be.
Oh, wow. Hey, Dave, is there another political position you might have your eye on if this one doesn't pan out for you? I mean,
Or after this one pans out.
if you have that burning desire to serve, is there anywhere else that you might want to project onto?
No, I as a matter of fact, I was on the phone a little while ago, finalizing Veterans Day, which, by the way, is on Veterans Day at the Dow James. And the commander from Tooele is going to speak as our guest speaker. That doing community involvement is what I do. I enjoy doing that, especially with the veterans, since I'm a veteran. I think that is pretty much, I just like to be involved in the community. And
That sounds like that'd be a happier place to be, to start up a volunteer community party committee. I got to make no decisions. I just beg for money. If you give it to me, I spend it on fun.
no,
High five.
and but no, I've been a member of the Elks for a while, and I'm their veterans coordinator, and we've done fundraisers to get money. In fact, we got the park on Vine Street, the Veterans Memorial, the stones and stuff. That's who bought all those stones. And it was really satisfying to see that come together, and working with the city. And at that time, it was Mayor Roberts, Charlie Roberts. He was really great to work with, and we did that as a partnership, and I enjoyed that, and just giving back to the community of which I live in. That's pleasing, and being on the council, also pleasing. That I get to have a little bit of input into the way the city's moving, and hoping that we can keep it, as I said earlier about the facade for Broadway and Main Street, and like you said, we should include Vine Street on that as well.
Make it enticing.
Yeah, and bring it back to where it used to look, with the help of the owners. Just partner with them to revive that whole area there, so that it make it something that if someone's passing through, I want to walk down that street.
And businesses will say, I want to open up a storefront there.
Exactly, because one of the things that, excuse me, that I think a lot of us forget is that Tooele is a destination. And I know we hear it all the time. Well, we got to get more businesses. We get compared to Cedar City so often because of the size and whatever. But Cedar City is not a destination. I-15 runs right through it. So people stop there all the time. They don't necessarily drive 36 unless they're going out to the sand dunes. You know what I'm saying? So
we need attractions is what you're saying.
In order to help get those businesses there, we need attractions. And a beautiful downtown that looks really sweet might help. I'm not saying it's the answer. It's not necessarily the answer, but it can't hurt.
Yeah.
And small things that don't cost quite as much money. At the same time, we are working, or the city is working, and trying to attract more businesses to come into town and get people so that they can work. And the times that we are in right now, to be honest, it is so troubling. We have so many jobs that are out there for people to take, and they don't take them because, well, for a long time they made more money on unemployment. And now everyone's saying, well, you're not paying me enough money.
There seems to be a big cultural uprising right now.
Yeah.
And the cost of housing is only $500,000 for a house on a $14 wage.
If you get the chance, watch the other shows. I'm not going to bore everyone with my spiel on that again, but I think that
you hit the nail on the head there, Dave.
Yeah.
It is that way. And I really don't think there's any way to tie that equation into something that balances out. It's going to be a tumultuous year. I'll say that.
Year? You are one optimistic dude.
Well, I take them as they come. I'll look at the next one when it gets here.
All right. I think we're going to be seeing echoes of this for quite a while. Echoes of the 15 days to slow the spread or curb our life, whatever they called it. I forget. That was 2 years ago.
Curb the spread or spread
whatever it was. I think we're going to see the echoes of that nationally the Economist did the numbers. It killed a decade's worth of growth.
Pretty much.
Think of how many babies are not born because people stayed home and never met, and that equation all by itself is devastating.
But literally it destroyed it. It didn't stall 10 years of growth. It took us back 10 years. It reversed the economic clock 10 years. That's the minimum. And when you think about that, that is taking an accustomed to GDP of X and kicking it back to Y. And that's a scary thought. But we're not here to talk about that. Dave, we're coming up on the end.
Okay.
Throw us out just kind of a...
Well, actually, before you do that...
Dave's got another...
I want to talk a little bit more about that event you're going to be holding for Veterans Day. Can you provide us the times and locations at a later moment when you have everything settled? Because I think that's something worth talking about on the show.
Oh, definitely. And when it comes up, come on the show and tell us about it.
And especially the speaker. I mean, Colonel D is... He's quite an incredible person.
He is. He's a good guy, and but it's November 11th on Veterans Day at the Dow James, off of 400, and we have a free breakfast at 9, and the program starts at 11 sharp. Actually, it's 9:30 when the breakfast starts. 9:30 to 10:30.
And that's November 11th. The Dow James, for anyone who doesn't know what the Dow James is, it's the big T-wall structure that is on the west side of 400 north. So you just head west on 400 from Main Street, You won't miss it. There is nothing else around it that tall.
The skate park.
It's got a skate park, but it's not that tall.
No.
Yeah, and it's got the old rodeo grounds just north of it, out behind it. But yeah, you can't miss it. So it's on the 11th at 9 a.m. Starting to serve breakfast.
Who's cooking?
The Elks Lodge will be providing the food.
Sounds good.
Are they going to be handing out membership applications?
No.
No?
But, I mean, I'm sure if you ask someone, they will probably provide you with one.
The Elks Lodge is open right now to go fill out an application.
It's a great organization.
It really is.
But we do that every year with the city. And it would be, as you know, he's heard Colonel D talk before. In fact, he spoke at Memorial Day this year. And he's on his last year. And it'll be interesting to hear him speak again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the veterans will appreciate that.
Well, me and Dave will show up if we can.
By all means, do.
Yeah, we're both veterans. Both, you know.
And the Marine Corps League will be doing the color guard.
Good.
There'll be some blankets, and I wished I knew the organization that Cindy works with. They're handing out blankets, and we have Girl Scout troop that's going to be there helping. It should be a fun event, and it lasts about an hour.
Sounds good.
I like it.
Sounds good. All right, close us out. Give us your last stump.
Well, my name is Dave McCall, and I'm running for city council, and I would really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Simple and sweet. I like it. All right, everyone, that's Dave McCall. And tomorrow night, we've got Matt Robinson on. Well, I don't know if I should be here, but I think it's tomorrow night, if I'm wrong.
Well, tomorrow's Thursday.
Yeah.
Matt Robinson's on
Oh, yeah,
Friday.
Matt's on Friday.
You got someone at 4:30 tomorrow.
Craig Smith tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, we got Craig Smith tomorrow.
And I won't be here for that one, but...
So you're not here for that one. Okay. So tomorrow night's Craig Smith, and we'll be chatting with him. He is on Erda, the newfound Erda City stuff. So that'll be exciting. I'm excited to see what Erda does. One, they're not having a mayor. I'm excited to see that. And so that's going to be interesting to see. And I know that I kind of want to, one time, I don't know, I after this election's all over, I would like to have a gathering with the Tooele heads, maybe just over Zoom, just to chat about kind of as a group and kind of give an update. And I know Tooele has a different style of government, and I'd like to bring that up one time when everyone's here, including the mayor. Mm-hmm. You know, interesting stuff. All right. Thank you very much, Dave. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you guys for having me.
You bet.
All right. Thank you, everyone.